Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Alder Hour. I'm Matt Alder from Recruiting Future, and this show is part of the Purple Acorn Network. Head over to purpleacornnetwork.com after the show if you want to learn more about all the great shows that Purple Acorn do. You can also follow them on LinkedIn, which is probably the best way to get instant access to everything that's being broadcast from the network. This episode will also be available as a podcast wherever you listen to your quality podcasts. So many ways to listen. But what we want you to do right now is engage. This is a live show, so stick some comments in the comments. We'll try and read them out on the show. We've got a great guest. We've got some really interesting topics, and yeah, we'd really like you to be part of the show. So please join in. Okay, so let's kick things off, and I'm delighted to say a big hello to my co-host Rhona. Hi, Rhona. How you doing?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm in a bit of transition at the moment because I'm kind of building a new sort of studio. I'm sort of renovating the office to make it more of a studio. So there's kind of sound panels not on the wall, leaning on the wall, and stuff like that. And it's really altered my sound. So I'm just kind of like keep moving the microphone around. But yes. But other than that, I'm good. What about you? What have you been up to?
I can't wait to see how your studio turns out. I've been not shopping. Can you believe I did not buy
Wow.
anything for Black Friday or Cyber Monday? I'm like
Wow.
so proud of that.
Wow, I did actually. I hardly ever do, but this time I did. And apparently I read somewhere earlier today that the UK is the second biggest country for Black Friday sales after the US.
Wow.
Which is quite impressive. So and apparently also Shopify have had their best Black Friday ever for the sites that they host. So it's been a big weekend for lots of people shopping. Obviously, no, it's cool. No, I had a big weekend. I met up with loads of I had an annual meetup with a load of my friends. And I think I'm still suffering for it now, actually, even on Monday. So forgive me if I ramble more than usual. So what have you got coming up for us on the show this week?
I mean, I've proven one of my biggest conspiracy theories ever, that companies always look into everything in your devices. And I'm talking about that, how
Excellent.
Google's helping them do it.
Ah, excellent. No, looking forward to that one. I think there's lots of things to say about that. But I don't know about you, but I need a drink. So let's kick off with points and pints. Okay, so points and pints. We grab a drink and we look at a couple of headlines that we found in the news this week. So this week, I don't think I've drunk this one on the show before. So this is there we go. This is Hazy Jane from Brewdog, the Scottish brewer. And this is obviously low alcohol beer. And it's a hazy IPA, which is my favorite type of IPA. So I've not had it for a while, so I'm hoping that it's going to taste good. What have you brought to the show this week?
So I have the phony Negroni, the white Negroni. I've been
Ah.
wanting to try this all week since last week, but I'm like, no, I have to try it on the show. So I'm excited to try this one.
So I think that's the first time. This is not from Trader Joe's, is it? Phony
No,
Negroni?
it's not.
No, that's the first time you've done 2 weeks in a row not from Trader Joe's. So obviously the sponsorship contract we're about to sign with them is up in flames. So Phony Negroni, reach out and sponsor this section of the show. We want to hear from you, or
Yes.
Brewdog or Guinness. Right, let's open this. There we go. Right. Let's see. I'm going to hold it up to see if it is as hazy as it promises to be. There we go. Can't really see it. It's all. There we are. Coming into shot now. For those listening on the podcast, you're probably wondering what on earth's going on. I'm trying to just show how hazy my drink is. Look at that. You can't see through it. There we go. Ooh, the wrong way around. You can't see through it. Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's a good one. How is the other type of phony Negroni?
It's really good. I like it better than the one from last week. And the one from
Wow.
last week was great.
It
Yeah, I
was,
like this.
and it got better as you drank it, as you drank more of it. So,
Yes.
this could be spectacular. It could be spectacular. Excellent. Right. So, let's look at the articles. So here is the first one. Okay. Some tech companies abandon diversity reports as they go mum on DEI. So basically, this is an article saying that a number of tech companies have stopped publishing their annual, DEI reports about the makeup of their workforce, or some of them have scaled that back, or are perhaps indicating that this could be the last year that they do this. I've got quite a few thoughts on this, but Rona, I know that you have. So, what's your take on what's going on here with these tech companies?
I mean, I think the best way to sum it up is how the journalist who wrote this summed it up. And Um, a lot of these organizations are forgetting that the pendulum always swings back the other way. But my favorite part of it was these tech cultures are already perfectly designed to protect those who plant it. They're there to protect the Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerbergs and the Bill Gates and all those super powerful, incredibly wealthy white men. And now they're just really pulling up the signs and showing exactly what we always knew, which is that they never cared. And I think this is the best way to sum it up. But I think that it's not like it might work for them now. It might be the cool thing to do to not report on these numbers, to hide behind it. I even saw a part there where they said that instead of reporting numbers, they're doing more meaningful things like sharing stories and videos, aka tokenizing one or
Yeah,
two diverse employees and,
marketing.
and,
Yeah.
and marketing and PR
Mm,
spinning it.
mm,
The pendulum will swing. People still care about this. The main reason why we started talking about this is because people cared about it, and not only underrepresented groups, but everyone inside of these organizations cares about it. It's a great thing that people care about, like both employees, clients, like everyone. Like this is important. So hiding it might be the cool thing to do now. You might be praised by some government officials, but the government ends, things
mm,
change, the
mm.
pendulum swings, and people will remember. You will not retain employees.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that kind of stands out for me is nobody believes you. If you're not doing this reporting, then it's because you don't think it's important and you don't care, or you are just deprioritizing the whole thing, or you never cared in the first place. And it's like no one believes that replacing it with a few stories and a bit of marketing and some sanitized PR is better, because it's not. Because I think it's like there's obviously the accountability here in terms of publicly publishing that data so everyone can see it. But these are enormous companies, and if they're not publishing these reports, they're not measuring this, and if they're not,
Exactly.
got no idea what's going on. So, there's just the implications are just sort of are kind of massive, and there are all kinds of reasons as to why it's important. But one that I would pick out from is, particularly at the moment, these are all companies. Yeah, I think all the companies mentioned in this report are building AI. They're building our AI future, and everyone needs to be represented in that. And we need to know who is building these AI systems of the future, and what's kind of what bias is baked into them, what's going on. So we need everyone to be represented more than ever. And that to me just makes this even more of a backward move, because as you say, the pendulum will swing. It will swing back, and yeah, people won't forget. And I think that's the thing about it. And it's just even with the AI, they're on this kind of absolutely focused mission to Zuckerberg and his we want artificial general intelligence, and I don't care how much it costs. But it's like, what happens, what happens when you get there, and or if you don't get there, and who's building it? And people will hold these tech companies accountable for what they've built. So to me, that's just makes it even more I was going to say crazy, but it is really predictable that this has happened.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was gonna happen. It's just they never cared. It was always a performance, and we were still making kind of some movement forward just because they had to talk about it. So there had to be numbers, there had to be some sort of accountability, but we always knew that they didn't really care. So they're just showing us the truth now. I think also it's going to be hard. Like as a recruiter, I remember people asking me in the companies that I worked at, the last company I worked at, we published it on our website and I was able to be like, hey, go to this website and you can see these numbers who are periodically updated, graphs and everything of all of our
Mm,
diversity breakout for the company. Candidates ask that, clients
yeah,
ask
yeah,
these things, so not
absolutely.
having the numbers isn't going to stop people caring about it, people asking about it, people talking about it online, which is something that happens.
Absolutely. And if you ever needed, diversity of thought, diversity of background, everything within a tech company at the moment now is the absolute time to, is kind of the absolute time to do that. And I was looking at some interesting data the other day, actually, as part of my podcast, where there was a huge amount of research that said if you use inclusive language in your job ads, basically, so properly measured inclusive language, not something written by an LLM, properly kind of human research stuff, you get a higher quality response, even from people who aren't in underrepresented groups. So I think kind of speaks to what you're saying. So the business advantages here are also huge. So it's just there is a sense that it's just people don't care or they don't know, which I can't believe because these companies are very, very data
They
um,
know they don't
focused.
care.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so obviously we're not naming any specific company in the "they don't care" thing. It's just a general, general comment into the universe. So if anyone's lawyers are listening, we didn't name names. Apart from Zuckerberg, but that was about something else. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. McKinsey explains why AI won't take your job, even though it can already automate 57% of all US work hours. Now, this is really timely for me because this morning I published an episode on my podcast, which is an interview with the CEO of Revelio Labs. About a book that he's called Ben. It's about a book he's writing about job architecture and understanding tasks and how they kind of fit into jobs and things like that. So, through that lens, this article is really interesting because basically what McKinsey is saying is, okay, you can automate a lot of the tasks that sit within a job, but you still need the human part of it. So you're not taking the whole job away. You're just taking like some of the job away. You still need a human in there and they can just do other things. So we can bring more value and all this kind of stuff. This is the kind of thinking that, looks good on a study that a management consultancy has done. It looks great when governments wave it around, all this kind of stuff. When it hits the reality of the real world, it's nonsense. And it's nonsense for a couple of reasons. First of all, people are already losing their job because of AI, because AI is being used as a cover for layoffs. So, it's already, that's kind of already there. And I think that one of the things that we were talking about on that podcast episode is if you are an employer who really understands the skills you have in the company, the tasks that make up jobs, then in a really kind of architectural taxonomy, whatever you want to call it, then you can be this strategic. You can say, well, actually, these tasks are going away. We're going to move these tasks in. This person's job looks like this. Now this person's job looks like this. Most companies aren't like that. And a lot of companies are very rigid in what someone does. And if they don't do 57% of it, they will just get rid of that job.
Yep.
Now, you can argue that, and I'm sure McKinsey would argue that in the long term, that's going to be bad for those companies. But by the time the pendulum swings back again, and they correct. The people who've lost their jobs have lost their jobs. So I get what they're saying, but I just don't think it's going to stack up to. It's just not. It's going to be very different in reality. Unfortunately, I mean, I hope they're right, and I hope that companies are flexible and strategic enough to really take advantage of AI and do this. And I took a lot of positives from the conversation I had with Ben, but I'm not sure all companies will. Rhona, what do you think?
Agree with every single thing you said. And I actually saw a post that Maureen Wiley Clough posted right before the show, and she was saying she has an interesting take that I also agree on. Companies are jumping on this trend, and they're like laying off people because of AI, not because of AI. They know that these jobs that they replace they shouldn't be replacing. They know all of this stuff. They know that they're going to have to rehire people, but what they're trying to do is reshuffle or like realign, I guess, everyone's expectations on salary. Because when they hire you back, you're going to be out of work for years. We've already seen people who've been laid off for years, and now pile this on. They're going to offer you what, 2/3, 50% less of the salary that you were making for roles. And people are going to take it because long-term unemployment makes you accept a lower salary. And that's what I think a lot of companies are doing, whether they want to say it or not. And so, yeah, AI will be taking your job temporarily, but companies are really wanting to come back and offer you lower salaries. We've seen this happen before, and I think they've just seen the opportunity, and that's what they're jumping on. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that there's a bit where, when I was saying about companies aren't sophisticated enough to actually really understand how the jobs that they have in their company actually work in terms of who does what. So there is a strategy where you cut jobs, and you deliberately cut too many jobs, and then you use the chaos to actually find out what needs to be done and whose job needs to be realigned, and all that kind of and all that kind of stuff, which again is not good news. So yeah, it's an interesting article because I completely understand where it's coming from, and I get it. And I think it's right, and I think that probably in the long term that's where we're going to end up. But I think that there's just too much. I don't know what we should call this, AI job washing or something. I don't know. AI. I don't know what it should be
I'm sure
called.
a journalist out there right now
I
is
know there must
thinking
be.
of the perfect
Yeah.
term.
There's just a bit where there's a bit where this is where you get to. This is where we are, and in the middle there is just this chaos, and the chaos is something that affects humans and their lives. And my concern is that no one seems to be taking that into account or thinking about that, or and we've said this time and time again, is it governments, is it companies, who is it that needs to that needs to kind of sort of step in here? But that's the bit that kind of worries me. I think in the long term, unless someone does invent artificial general intelligence and it enslaves the entire human race, in the long term, I think we will get to a much better place. But it is going to be chaotic in the meantime, and it could be for a number of years, which is a good proportion of lots of people's careers, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to put a positive-ish spin on it,
Of course we do.
maybe in the long run we'll end up with companies who have actually done the work and know the skills.
Yeah.
And I'm being overly like, yay, cheerleader positive, because I know how things work inside of companies. But maybe some companies will use this time to really reevaluate skills and do proper workforce design and job architecture and all of these things. Maybe that's what we end up with. But yes, it's very unfortunate that in the meantime, and people are going to suffer, and people's livelihoods and people's mental health and just humans in general are going to suffer in this middle time period. And what's very sad and concerning for me is that we don't know how long this period is.
Yeah, and I think, to finish on a positive as well, I think the thing that is unique about McKinsey is they do set the C-suite agenda. So when McKinsey comes out with something like this, CEOs read it and it becomes the trend for the year. This is what we're trying to do. So I think that, if you're a smart leader of a business, you're going to sort of look at this and some of the other things that are coming out, and you're going to say, do you know what? Our number one priority is to understand the tasks and the activities in our company so we can absolutely get full competitive advantage and value from AI. And while our competitors are just cutting people and running around and not really working out what to do, we can literally just forge ahead and get that thing. So I'm hopeful that actually capitalism will come and save the day here because there's a huge amount of competitive advantage sitting in the thinking that comes behind this. And I think that that does make me perhaps, I think I'm probably more optimistic about this than I was about a week ago, just having seen where the conversation is now starting to go. So, well, I think that's a positive. That's a positive way to finish. So, yay, McKinsey! Keep up the good work. Awesome. Well, we normally go to a guest at this point. We're going to go to the guest slightly later. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into trending or ending.
All right. So Google just turned your work text into company property, and everyone's acting shocked. They rolled out the Android RCS archival on Pixel phones. Translation: your employer can now read your RCS chats on work devices. Yes, even the ones with that little lock icon that made you think they were private. But Rona, isn't it's end-to-end encrypted, right? That's what everyone I'm sure is thinking. Yeah, about that. End-to-end encryption protects your messages while they're flying through the internet. But once they land on your phone, they're sitting there, decrypted, ready for anyone controlling the device to read it. So Google's spinning this as it's helping companies meet regulatory requirements. Cool story. Except now every company can play along, not just the regulated ones. Remember when Microsoft announced Teams would track when you're active? We all lost our minds. This is worse. I think it's way worse. I see people ditching their personal phones because work gave them the latest iPhone, or getting rid of personal laptops because the company MacBook is nicer. I've always been against this. Anything that your job gives you belongs to them. They can monitor it, they can wipe it, read it whenever they want. That's not a benefit. That's you paying for convenience with your privacy. I've been warning anyone who would listen about this forever. Your work device is not your device. It never was. But we got comfortable. We saw that encryption badge and we thought we were safe. And employees are already turning to WhatsApp and Signal for real conversations. So shadow IT is about to explode. Companies think they're getting more visibility, but they're actually just pushing authentic communication underground. So, is workplace text monitoring trending or ending? I think it's trending. It's trending hard and it's not stopping. But it's your move, right? Keep your personal devices personal, pay for your own phone, buy your own laptops. Yes, even if the work one is fancier, privacy isn't free anymore. It costs whatever the phone bill is, and it's worth every penny. What do you think, Matt? Is this trending or ending?
I think it's definitely trending. It's an interesting one. I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I was just then I was kind of frantically Googling, or I should have AI'd it rather than Google. But being old school, I'm using a search engine. I just asked ChatGPT in the break there about what European law is on this, because I think that there is some kind of reasonable expectation of privacy, but I think it depends on role. So I couldn't find the bit that said it was illegal, so I was just going to go with what it says here. I think it's interesting. I think that it's like, what is our expectation of privacy? As you say, people, no one really wants to carry around two phones, so lots of people will use their device. And also, we are living in a time where work and life are blended. You do not finish work at 9 you don't finish work at 5 o'clock and leave your turn your corporate device off. You could be, sitting at home watching Stranger Things, but also doing some work emails and sending some personal messages at the same time. So there was that kind of blend, which I don't think that we kind of really sort of legislate for. So I think that's part of it. There's been an interesting sort of case in the UK recently where there's a kind of a big national inquiry into the country's response to the pandemic.
Mhm.
And the government at the time, led by Prime Minister Boris Johnson, did a lot of communications off official software and communicated effectively via WhatsApp. And the Prime Minister somehow lost 6,500 WhatsApp messages that couldn't be given to the inquiry about some of the decisions that were made in COVID, and blamed it on an upgrade on his phone or something like that. It
Oh.
was, So there's a bit of me that says actually, the regulatory requirements part for some jobs is quite important. And I think that this has kind of thrown up an issue in the UK about what's an official communication and what's not official communication, and how should that work? And I think we saw in the US with people adding government officials adding the wrong people to WhatsApp groups and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I think that to me, I just think there has to be a kind of sense of clarity. It's like if you have a job where the employer has to, look at your messages, you should know that. You should be told that your data is being looked at, and then that helps people make those decisions about privacy. I think it's when people have an expectation of privacy and it's not there, and people aren't being transparent about it, that to me is where there's an issue.
I mean, I think I've always been this person. A company gives me a phone and I have two phones, and it's a pain to carry two phones, all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm big, whatever the company gives you, computers, phones, email, everything, it belongs to them as it
Mm,
should.
mm,
I also think for important roles, like we're talking government and things like that, where you're deciding on people's lives, I don't think text messages is where this should be discussed.
mm.
That's just me.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
though
Yeah.
that type of thing needs to exist for regulated jobs and for like really, really high profile, important jobs, people making decisions like this. Those guidelines need to exist. But I'm always going to be team have your personal devices and like let's take the privacy and all of that away from it. The way companies are laying off people so many times. I've been in a conversation where I'm laying someone off and the first thing they think is, oh my gosh, when's my phone going to be shut off? When's my computer
Mm,
going to be shut
mm.
off? Can you give me some time to pull things off of it? And it's like, why was your life on the company equipment? It
Yeah,
shouldn't have been.
yeah.
It should have never been. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it just throws up so many issues around privacy and transparency, and what's sort of really going on. And I've got in my business, I run on Google Workspace, and it's just me, so I don't have to I don't have to spy on myself. But in the whole back office, there's if you have people on Google, you can just you can actually see everything that's going on,
Yeah.
essentially. And I think also there's a thing about again in the UK, there's a thing about employment tribunals where people have used freedom of information requests to request any WhatsApp that's mentioned them, whether it's like private or public or whatever.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting. And I think also I wonder whether there is different tech companies have different attitudes to this, because Apple has always been very heavy on privacy, but then they don't really have that sort of corporate infrastructure that they sell. They're currently in an ongoing legal battle with the UK government about not letting the government access iCloud files. So
Mm.
this is it's kind of it's a huge issue, and I'm sure it's gonna run and run.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Rhona, thank you very much for for bringing us that one. And yeah, we'll looking forward to talking to you next time. In the meantime, we are gonna finish with our guest. And here he is, the man, the legend that is Trent Cotton. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, Mr. Alder. How are you?
I'm very good. You've got kind of a wooden panel background as well. It appears to be
It is soundproof, so it kind of helps because I have a very loud voice, and both my husband and I both work from home, so I try to be conscientious.
No, that's fair enough. Well, it's always good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
What are you bringing us this week? What's your topic?
Oh, you know what? I give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. It's going to be data. It's going to be data. I
Is it
love talking
AI?
about data.
Data.
No, it's not AI. It's
Cool.
it's data.
So it's the state of ISIM state of Frontline Hiring Report, isn't it?
Yes, it sure is. It sure is. So we put out a free monthly report. You can go to isims.com, resources, talent insights, and it's got all of our reports. And every year we call them 2 anchored reports. So it's something that's kind of outside of the workforce data. We did the CHRO report the beginning part of the year, and we just released our frontline hiring report. And I thought there was some pretty interesting stats, and thought that maybe I know you and I both kind of geek out on hiring data, and
Absolutely.
what better than having survey data from 1,000 frontline workers and 1,000 hiring managers.
So, what was the big thing that stood out for you? What was the kind of the main stand-up point? Because I've kind of looked through the report. And there's some really interesting stuff in there, some stuff I want to ask you about. But
Yeah,
what was the big thing that stood out for you?
you know, 20 something years as a practitioner, there's always that gut, and you wish that you could assign a number.
Mm,
For me, I'd spent a lot of time in OFCCP regulated industries, so tech, fintech, and finance. And there's all these things that you have to get on the front of the application. And I always wondered to myself, how many people just kind of go, "Ugh, I'm not doing this. Like, this is too much."
mm,
And I know whenever I was in the job market, there were several that I just would go, I forgot what I'm applying for by the time I actually get to the
yeah.
application part. So the stat that jumped out at me was that 60% of candidates abandon the job. This is just frontline workers, so high volume. They abandon the job, and of course, the leading cause is application is entirely too long. And to me, I
Mm,
don't know, Matt. This
mm,
just seems like an easy fix that just no
mm.
one is addressing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a stat in there about hiring managers as well, isn't it? Like something like 91% of hiring managers say they need to fill roles urgently, but
Yes.
all the friction is within the actual hiring process. Why do you think that is? And also, how can we fix it?
You know, it was really interesting. I called it the leaky funnel,
Mm,
and in the report, we get into a couple of different sectors. So, like hospitality, retail. We also look at hospital, healthcare, and each one of them have a different hole in the process. So, in healthcare, the drop off is actually after the interview, which I
right.
found really interesting,
Mm,
especially considering everything that's going on in the healthcare. In hospitality, it is showing up for the interview, and then in retail is kind of somewhere in between. But I think that what we're losing sight of, there's 2 different things that are going on. One's macro, one is just kind of the state of the type of candidate that's applying.
yeah.
Macro, many people that are applying for these level of jobs, they need them, and they need them
Mm,
fast. So sometimes all you have is speed. You may not pay the best, may not have the best working hours, but you can get an offer to them in 4 or 5 days. You're going to have your pick of the lot. And then the other is that the candidates, 2 things on this kind of their expectation is they want it to move fast, and they want to be kept up to date with what's going on. And you mentioned our little friend AI. I do think this is where automation and AI can enhance the candidate experience.
mhm.
And just another data point from Gartner. I went to their symposium. I don't know. There were 6 weeks of traveling. In one of those, I went and they had a really interesting session about this kind of the top 7 trends that they're expecting in 2026. And one of them
Yeah.
was, of course, AI, but specifically, where is AI going to, like, people are going to go all in? And it's in front hiring. So I'm hoping that we start to see, this time next year, we start to see, okay, the candidate experiences increase. Managers are complaining about their biggest complaint is lack of quality. Well, there's some things that you can do in the process now through automation, and then hopefully in the very near future with AI assist to be able to alleviate some of those issues.
And I think one of the other things as well was just the kind of the mismatch of expectations that's out there. So in terms of
Mhm.
what hiring managers think their workers value and what their workers actually say they want. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, of course, you ask managers, they think pay, being the most competitive in pay, that is, and good working hours. But really, with candidates, they are looking for pay transparency on the job description, and
Mm,
they want to understand very clear career paths. And I think this is another miss. So prior to getting into HR, I was in banking and I spent some time in retail banking, which is high volume. One of the things that I always sold was I started out as a teller, and now I'm running 9 or 10
mm,
different branches. You can do the same. You can just create your career path based off of what your interests are, but get in here and learn the basics. And I think that we've gotten so far away from that conversation, and now candidates are willing to go into some frontline working, some high volume shops, as long as they can kind of see that this is not going to be forever. And I think this is a great way to help not only on the recruiting side but also on the retention.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's funny because that was always something, as you say, that companies were very quick to stress. I remember, people I know who went into kind of frontline jobs and they got to be an area manager within 3 years, and that was very much kind of flagged up at the start of
Mhm.
the start of the process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just kind of funny how many trends are, not just in fashion that are coming back, but like
yeah,
just something like we've got to we got to go back to our roots whenever it comes to recruiting, and that root is relationships.
mm,
And there's a very dystopian view of AI in recruiting, and I think we need to acknowledge that there is some realistic expectations. But I do think, man, this is really the opportunity for us to
mm,
get back into the human aspect of it.
mm.
And all of the data says candidates want it. The data says that the managers need it. And I'm just really hoping that we're able to merge those two together and really kind of take recruiting where it was always destined to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%, completely agree with you. And the sectors that you looked at, I think it was hospitality, retail, manufacturing, healthcare.
Manufacturing, that
Um,
was the one I forgot.
yeah, I mean, who has the more pressing issue? Who do you think should be sort of moving the quickest here?
Hospitality, I think, is the one
Mm,
that is probably hurting the most because they can get people to apply, but for some reason they just do not show up to the interview. And a lot of times their reason is because they accepted another offer.
yeah, it
So
took too long.
yeah,
Mm,
and then healthcare is the one that concerns me, just
mm,
because there is so many frontline workers in the hospital, and you've already got this compression on nurses, and then all of those supporting positions. When you have some constraints there, and they're leaving after the interview, again, putting on my TA lead hat, I'm going, okay, well, what in the world would make them not follow through after an interview? Is it the hiring manager? Is it the hiring process? Did they get another offer? So, I mean, if you're in healthcare, those are some of the questions I would really be digging in on.
mm,
And just a piece of advice, and I wish I would have learned this earlier in my career. At my last position, of course, I'm obsessed with data and I track everything. I had an automation that every time a candidate was moved from one stage to the next, they were sent just a very simple survey. So, as an
mm,
example, recruiter interview, we had recruiter completed because they needed somewhere to kind of put the candidate while they're going through all the interviews to figure out who's going to move to the next.
yeah.
So, as soon as that was triggered, an email would go to you, the candidate, and it asked 3 questions. Was the recruiter on time? Were they knowledgeable about the role? And did they explain the career path? It was yes, yes,
Mm,
no, and then always
mm,
had, open field for them to add anything else. Same thing on the hiring manager. Were they on time? Did they explain the role? Did they answer all of your questions? I cannot tell you the amount of insights that I got just from that. Because, of
mm,
course, I put a layer on top of it because all of it was going into a Google Sheet. So I built a little agent that said, anytime you see any kind of a weird anomaly or any score that's less than this, notify me within 24 hours. And
Yeah.
there were a couple of times that it proved to be the insight that I needed to be able to make that quick fix in the recruiting funnel or in the recruiting process to make sure that my candidates felt valued. Even if they weren't right for the role, I wanted them to feel valued. I was
Yeah,
obsessed about
absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
no, yeah, again, makes perfect sense. I think it's great advice for anyone, anyone listening who's kind of working in this area. And I want to talk a little bit about solutions in a second, but before I do, I wonder whether, particularly with frontline hiring,
mhm,
in some ways, the internet revolution was really bad for it. And are we now in the position where the pendulum can swing back? What I mean by that is, before online applications, you could literally walk into, wherever the shop
true.
was, the premises
Okay.
was, talk, ask if they had shifts, talk to the hiring manager, give them a resume directly. And it was quick because, very often decisions could be made there and then. I remember getting a job
Hmm.
in a hotel. Just someone told me there was a job. I walked in, I spoke to the manager. I think I started that afternoon. So, and then obviously, the internet came along to make hiring more efficient, but it tended to become centralized, and it's like you apply and it goes off to some central point and all this sort of stuff. Do you think that is part of the problem here? And do you think that technology can now fix that?
Answer to your first question. Do I think that's the problem? I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I think what has happened since then is that we've put in all these different layers of processes and all
Yeah.
these different layers of paperwork. And I think that's what's bogged down the recruiting.
Yeah.
Can technology fix it? Yes. So I want to take us back to our 2020 conversation, Matt. So let's look into the future.
Okay.
Why are we trying to fix a problem that we created, the online application, kind of using your hypothesis?
Yeah.
And length of time is perception. I mean, I spent 20 minutes on this, but also too, there's that level of experience, right? I spent more than 20 minutes early this morning on Cyber Monday on Amazon. It didn't feel like that until I looked at my time and looked at my bill.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's all a part of the perception. So
Yeah.
what if we changed that process, that step in the process to be more conversational?
Mm.
Hey, have you ever done this? Hey, have you ever done that? Well, tell me about your experience here. Like just more like a little chatbot type of interview that's building out that candidate profile and helping match them to the right jobs. Candidates actually from our August research, we contracted with Lighthouse Research and Advisory. And one of the things that candidates said is they like AI that helps match them to jobs that they don't even know
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
So I do
Yeah.
think that there is that lift, that potential lift, if we change how the process is viewed, we change that experience and change that perception, and then loop all that in with an actual human handling the human in the process. To me, that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a kind of a brilliant observation. And it's just kind of so true. And so much about this is effectively about relationships and customer service and
It
perception and all
is.
that sort of stuff. So, I mean, just to kind of finish off, does the report make any sort of recommendations about what people should be, what people in these sectors should be doing or thinking about?
Yes, it does. There are for each one of them, we try to address what's going on. Where's the hole in the process? Here's some things that we would recommend to be able to do, and we also bring in some of our client stories, clients that have solved the same problem. So that way, it's not just us. You're actually hearing from some of our great clients out there who have tackled the same problem and can give you some tactical examples. Also, too, we put a lot of case studies and a lot of this type of material based off of some of the data and some of the issues that we find in these types of reports. We actually turn around on the back end and go, okay, well, what other material can we go and provide someone who is dealing with this type of an obstacle, give them some of the hand-to-hand combat training to get that problem taken care of. So, and you can find that under iCIMS, under resources as well. So that's why I love my job. I go and
Yeah,
get the data, find all the issues, and then
yeah.
kind of help with our marketing and content creation team to try and find some solutions. So it's fun.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And just tell us one more time where people can get the report.
Go to icims.com under resources, hit TA Insights. If you can't find it, just connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will send it directly to you.
Fantastic. Trent, thank you very much for talking
Always
to
a
me.
pleasure hanging out with you.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Cheers. And Rhona's back. Hi, Rhona. You come back to say goodbye. You were shocked then. You were like, I'm on air. I'm on air. What's going on?
Yes, I did not know I was going to be on air, but I'm happy to be on air.
Well, we can just close the show together, can't we? So that is another episode of the Alder Hour done. Now, I might be wrong, but I think it could be our birthday next week. Is it next week or the week after?
Yes, I think our birthday is next week.
Wow. So we are one. I can't quite believe that. It's where's the time gone? So no doubt we'll have a very special show lined up for then. So make sure you join us. Thanks to Rhona. Thanks to Trent. Thanks to Alan, our producer, for holding it all together in the background as ever. There are so many other great shows on Purple Acorn, including Rhona's show, Workfluencer, the HR Morning Show, which is on tomorrow, From the Desk, My First Job, From X to Z with my very good friend Mervyn Dinnan, and many, many more. So head over to the Purple Acorn LinkedIn page and follow them there. You can also go to purpleacornnetwork.com and you can find all their shows and this show as a podcast on Spotify, Apple, and wherever else you listen to your quality podcasts. You can find my longer form interviews on Recruiting Future, again, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We will be back. The Alder Hour will be back next week for our first anniversary show, and I'm very much looking forward to it. This is Matt Alder, clocking out.